Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the May 5th, 2025 Board of Selectmen, Highway Commissioners, Cemetery Commissioners meeting. I have to note this meeting is being recorded. First order of business, Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up, number 2, approval of minutes.
Mr. Chair, I would ask that we pass this over to the next meeting.
Without objection, we will pass over the minutes of April 14th and April 28th to the next meeting. So moved. Next up, citizens' comments. Anybody wishing to be heard on an item that is not on the agenda and does not require a vote of the board? Seeing none. Next up, public hearing. CMRPC, Central Mass Regional Planning Council, proposed amendment to Dudley's fiscal year 2023, Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, and I declare the public hearing open at 6:37.
All right, can folks hear me? Great. So thank you. My name is Andrew Lowe. I'm here from Central Mass Regional Planning Commission tonight. I just want to mention there is a sign-in sheet for this hearing that's in the audience. There's another version up in the front here. It's just an attendance list. The grant program requires that we document attendees. There's also a handout that I believe the board has in your packets and that I put some copies of over here as well. So just a little bit of background on the CDBG program, and I know that folks on the board have probably heard this several times before, so I'll try to go pretty quickly. But with assistance from CMRPC, the town received a fiscal year 2021. Oh, thank you. Is that better? Fiscal year 2021 grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development through the Massachusetts Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities CDBG program. So the total value of that grant is $800,000, inclusive of direct project costs like construction and engineering, project management, and grant administration. There are 2 activities in this grant. My colleague John O'Leary was here before the board back in August, I believe, last August, to talk a little bit about the status of those, so I won't go into great detail. Just one of the projects was on First Avenue. That was phase 1 of the First Avenue project, which was a construction project coming out of the Jericho-Brandon Infrastructure Plan, which is also funded by these grants. It was a water and sewer project. So following some public engagement, contractor was procured and completed construction on that activity in late 2023. The second phase of that project is actually, will be under contract momentarily to do the final paving through another community development block grant that the town has received, the FY 22 to 23 grant. The other activity under this program is the Housing Rehabilitation Program. That is an activity that CMRPC has subcontracted to our sister agency, the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission out in Springfield. And that program allows home repair loans to income-eligible Dudley residents and homeowners with a focus on code-related rehab. So we had expected possibly up to 3 homes to be assisted through that program. To date, 2 have been completed. The third one has not been able to go forward for a number of factors. At this point, essentially high costs. Some homeowners on the list have moved away or are no longer interested. That just cost increases overall that are above the anticipated budget, as well as some capacity concerns at Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. So the purpose of tonight's hearing is to talk about a possible amendment of the grant, since there are some funds remaining from the construction project coming in under budget, and then the housing rehab program, again, not having been able to get that 3rd unit up and running for a number of factors. So this hearing is a required component of the grant when you want to do an amendment to the grant, and I've been working with town staff over the last few months to look at what some options could be for reutilizing some of these funds that haven't yet been allocated or spent. So what we're looking at is about $129,000 in unspent, uncommitted grant funds. So it's a decent amount of money out of that original $800,000 award. And with state approval, these funds can be used for other CDBG eligible activities. So you can't choose anything you want to do with it. It does have to be within one of the silos that is grant eligible. And what I've been talking to the town staff about is using these funds to do a project or multiple projects that do what we call in the CDBG world, the architectural barrier removal projects. So essentially that's ADA compliance projects. It's to help provide better access to town services and facilities for folks who have disabilities. So this proposed work towards that kind of goal could include planning, design, construction, and related project management. And some of the locations that we've talked about in town, there are 4 different ones that we've been looking at to an extent. And I'll say we don't need a vote to decide any of this tonight. We don't have the details fully fleshed out on most of these at this moment. The purpose of the hearing is to allow the board and members of the public to hear about projects that are under consideration, and then details will be worked out later on for a formal grant amendment. So with that being said, what we're looking at, the first one is improvements to the sidewalks adjacent to the village cemetery on Dudley Oxford Road. I think folks who go through that part of town can pretty clearly see that those sidewalks are falling apart. They're I don't think wide enough to meet ADA requirements. They're just aging sidewalks in poor condition, and that is a fairly visible location. It has some historic assets, obviously with the historic cemetery adjacent to it. So that project would be one that we'd want to work with an engineer or architect to try to scope out a sidewalk design that doesn't have any negative impacts to the adjacent historic assets and can try to adhere to any historic standards that apply for that kind of work. Another project that we looked at is working at Crawford Field. So those are the ball fields off of School Street. Those were identified, or the routes of travel within that property and between the parking next to it and the recreational assets on the property were identified as deficient in the town's ADA plan. Third one we looked at was, again, a sidewalk work. So in the southern Oxford Avenue area and some of the adjacent side streets, Green Street, Oak Street, Pine Street, West Street, that vicinity, a lot of those sidewalks are also older. They don't all have ramps and width and condition that adheres with the ADA there. And then similar to Crawford Field, there's a small park on Pine Street. There's a basketball court. That one also had some deficiencies with its accessible route of travel between the parking and the play surface there and the walkways within the property. So I know it's kind of a quick summary of those. Again, we haven't fully fleshed out what the details are. Some of these would probably require some detailed engineering, architectural design. Other ones might be a little more straightforward and could go right into a construction type activity. But we do have those $129,000, and I think from what I'd heard from town staff, at least the village cemetery would be the priority, the sidewalks in that area. But again, all this has to be cleared with the state to make sure it's eligible from their perspective. So we have some alternative projects that we could pursue as well. As it says here on the handout, detailed scopes and budgets remain to be developed and are subject to state approval. Right now, this grant expires at the end of June. I have spoken to the town's program representative at the state. They're anticipating a request to extend the grant to allow time for one or more of these activities to be completed. They do, they are cognizant of trying to get the grant closed out fairly timely fashion, but I don't think it would be an issue to get an extension through December or perhaps into next spring. And, just to repeat, no action is required by the board at this time on a specific project. And I'll work with town staff to get the details together for these projects to submit to the state. Once their approval is in hand, then we can get to work on the project work. So I'm happy to take any questions from the board or from members of the public.
Any questions for Andrew? Mr. Johnson?
Through the chair. So of the 4 or 5 ideas here, is there a way to narrow it down by volume of traffic, or some way to, most bang for the buck? Is there a way to think about it that way?
Yeah, I mean, there are different criteria that could be used to analyze the projects. Part of it, I think, will just be fleshing out what the cost is a little bit more, so that we know which ones we can actually bite off and complete. So I think that'll be a big part. And then, that very first hurdle, though, is taking these to the state to make sure that they believe the activities we want to pursue are eligible under the grant program. This kind of activity is typically eligible. Anything to do with access for folks with disabilities, with a few minor exclusions, but I don't think there would be any from these projects. I will say that the sidewalk next to the cemetery, that one was not noted in the town's ADA plan, so the plan may have to be updated a little bit to incorporate it. One of the requirements for this kind of project is that projects that you want to do be included in that ADA plan. So, the town has, well, MJ could probably tell us, but the town has, 5-10 miles of sidewalk in town, and we couldn't have the consultant walk every piece of sidewalk, so this particular area was not included in the ADA plan, but it could be added very easily.
Mr. Chairman, one of the reasons that the village cemetery was brought up is because of a couple of things. It does give you some bang for the buck, because there's a Complete Streets and Safe Routes grant that's supposed to tie all those things eventually together. The middle school campus, the high school campus, Nichols campus, and so forth. So that's another source of grant funding. But this extra $129,000, some of it, I think, needs to be used because it's a historic district. It's certainly not ADA compliant. That sidewalk goes way up, and there are a lot of people, a lot of elderly people who, veterans that want to try to get into those cemeteries, who just can't make it up to grade. I mean, we've gone there, all of us have gone there at one point or another for ceremonies, and you're really kind of white knuckling it to make sure everybody gets up into the cemetery for the ceremony before, hopefully nobody falls and so forth. So that's something that's been closed for a while. So I think that, it is going to be an extra expense associated with making sure it's historically accurate, it's ADA compliant, and, it's designed the correct way. And whatever we can recover from unspent funds here and put towards that section in front of the cemetery, we gain on the other side, because that will be less money that we'd have to take from, either Safe Routes or Complete Streets to get that project done. In other words, we'd get more sidewalk, more bang for our buck out of it as well. So if we need to update the 88 plan to make it eligible, if the state deems it as an eligible project, we'll just take it to that next step.
That was gonna be my question, not to confuse Safe Street and Complete Streets and all that, but we had talked about that all tying in once upon a time.
Right.
So if we do that piece, hopefully with this source of funding, as you said, that'll take less to complete the loop, like we wanna come all the way back down to Tanyard and all that. We had the discussion about Tanyard, which we're gonna do sidewalks on one side, right, at some point? Tanyard and, right by the golf course?
Well, I think it's going up Dudley Hill. I think that's where it's scoped out to be, from airport up Dudley Hill,
Right.
and then right towards Shepherd Hill in the middle school.
Because you have to be within a certain amount of feet of the school, right?
Right.
There's some kind of contingency.
Yeah, but the beauty of Safe Routes is, I think it's, MJ wouldn't probably know off the top of his head, but I think it's within 5 miles of a town school, and everything qualifies.
Okay, then my second question, I think you kind of touched on it to Andrew. How does that work in the historical district to keep a ADA compliant sidewalk in the spirit of the historical district meaning? Is there some kind of leeway where we're not gonna put down like cobblestones like the 1700s, obviously.
Yeah, in my experience, the folks who administer the state's kind of equivalent of ADA, the 521 CMR, which really relates to buildings, but and the Massachusetts Historical Commission are pretty tolerant of ADA compliance. They understand that it's a civil right. They try to make allowances for that. As part of this project, if this is the one that the town wants to go forward with, and we can get that eligibility approval from the state, we would have to submit information to the Massachusetts Historical Commission and await their approval or guidance on the design of the sidewalk. So, you know, certainly anything that's done would be in compliance with their requirements.
Okay.
And it's about, you know, we would also assess the cost factor. So if they did have things they wanted to see done that were beyond what these funds can do, then we'd have to have a different discussion.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
And just if we went that route, of course, we'd get our local historic commission involved to make sure that everybody was on the same page.
Right, correct. I mean, because there was the going back issue of the trees with the roots, the pushing of the sidewalk. And there was some agreements reached at that time. We were gonna do some work up there post, I believe. And I see Mr. Bazinet's here, so he can probably fill in the blanks for me if he chooses. But anybody have any questions?
We did recently just put in that plan for the sidewalks, so we're just waiting on that to come back.
Good.
Continue all the way up to the four corners.
Right, from the golf course?
Yeah, we just put that in a couple weeks ago, I believe.
And I will say, just from this grant's perspective, when a project is made eligible because it removes these architectural barriers for disabled persons, the state makes us adhere very narrowly to that definition. So by having other resources that could be brought to bear for that project, if the state says, well, you know, the curb or something can't be addressed with these grant funds, then you would have another outlet for that. So it would be a good combined project, I think. But again, we'll have to check all the boxes before we can dive into it.
Right, and the grant that MJ was talking about, that's the one we can only apply for one a year.
Complete Streets is every 2 years, and I think it maxes at 500,000. So whatever we got from whatever we used for Complete Streets, that would otherwise be needed to make sure that the section in front of Village was done correctly. That would be all the less that we could use and apply towards just your normal standard sidewalk.
Right.
So it's every 2 years for complete, and
2 years.
we're eligible again now, and it's in the application process.
Right, perfect. Questions from the crowd? Mr. Bazinet?
Ed Bazinet, Black Tavern Historical Society and Town of Dudley Historical Commission. I was delighted to see that something might be going forward. I've been given lots of promises in the past, and we've had a couple of debacles up there. And as we creep up on 2032, I think we need to get that part of town looking very nice. So we would be most supportive of getting the sidewalk piece there included. So I'm here to respond from both those organizations saying, go forth, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Anybody else? So no action taken tonight? We'll just close it
Yeah,
up?
there's no requirement for a resolution tonight. Really, it's a public forum offering questions and comments. So,
So would it be prudent to just continue the public hearing in case we ever have to come back with a decision, or close it, and if we have to do another one, we'll just do another one?
Well, I don't think we've honed down the projects enough to warrant continuing it. I mean, when we have a better, right? Am I?
from the grant's perspective, holding the hearing in a public forum that's, you know, been duly advertised is sufficient for the grant. I leave it up to the board and the town administration as to whether or not you want to have a vote on it later outside of the hearing.
Why don't we try to narrow down the projects, and then you'll have something specific to vote on? Because we don't have an answer from the state yet, and there's a lot of other obstacles that we need to get over before, you know, even if we have to update the 88 plan, that'll be an agenda item, so
Okay.
there'll be other opportunities to talk about it.
So without objection, we'll close the public hearing as of 6:55. None? Andrew, nice to see you again.
Likewise, and I'm sure
Thanks
I'll be
for your
back. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. Next on the agenda, we have Heather Arnold for a blood drive located in the municipal complex parking lot, I believe.
Hello, everyone.
Heather, how are you?
I'm Heather from Board of Health. I come on behalf of Board of Health to inquire if we can have permission to have a blood drive on the 24th of June in the parking lot. The Dudley Women's Club usually does one in May or June, and they were unable to do it this year, and there's a big demand since COVID. So we would like to set it up in the same format that they do. They have it down in the lower parking lot. It comes as the bloodmobile, so it's all self-sufficient inside. They could do like 6 to 7 donors an hour. It would be from, let's see here. They would set up in the morning around 11:30, and then a drive would run from like 1 to 5, and then they'd clean up and leave by 6 to 6:30. The only thing we would need from the town hall would just, from the building would be just to use the bathroom in the police station. It would be done through the Rhode Island Blood Bank, who donates locally. They use their blood locally.
Questions, Heather? So generally on stuff like that, we always ask for like public safety's input. I'm 100% for it. Just, we have plenty of time. We can coordinate with like Chief Wayne, Chief Kolowitz.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, Olivia's been speaking directly with him about this, so
Okay.
everything seems on track, no problems.
So would we like to do a provisional yes vote, and then if no issues arise, we have to come back with it? And make the vote contingent upon maybe just letting the administrator know what they came up with the chiefs. If there's no issues, that's the vote they'll have it. Kerry?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to grant the Board of Health permission to, hold on, come to me. Oh, it's blinking on and off. Permission to hold the blood drive at the Town Hall parking lot Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. What time?
Setup would be at 11:30, but the drive would run from 1 to 5.
11:30 to 5 p.m. pending public safety approval.
Motion made.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, state aye.
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 Unanimous. Good luck.
Great, thank you.
Next up is Hopper Payroll Implementation Update. Jana DeShane.
Yeah, so this will be pretty quick. I got a late email from our rep at Harper's with pretty much just a list of the things that have been completed and what some of the policy questions were at the last meeting that he was involved in. I'm in the process of kind of weeding through that and putting it in a more friendly format to kind of go through. That way we can share it out to departments and figure out what we want our timeline to be. I think it'll be really important to like kind of hit on those deadlines ahead of time and kind of get those asks for deliverables out there so that we know exactly like what we're looking to hit individually. It's very easy to say the overall, we want the project done by such and such a time, but there are obviously little milestones that we have to hit to get there. So that's pretty much where we're at.
Any questions for Ms. DeShane? Hearing none. That's great. Thank you. To the administrator. C, if required, a May 19th, 2025 annual town meeting items that require a vote of the BOS.
No, that was just in case something came up between our last meeting and now, and nothing has come up. We're still on track as voted by the FAA and the Board of Selectmen.
Excellent.
I'm going to post it tomorrow.
Excellent. Number 6, town administrator report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Dudley Police Department, Dudley Fire Department will be ready to transition to the P25 digital radio communications. That's the project we've been talking about for since last year, actually. Migration to digital has been scheduled as follows. On May 13th at 10 a.m., Dudley Police will go digital. May 14th at 10 a.m., Dudley Fire will go digital. And the project will use fiber lines that have been installed as supporting infrastructure. As you recall, this project was initially budgeted in October of last year for the ongoing maintenance agreement for these lines. These are the fiber lines, and recently appeared in the FY26 draft budget as a line item. This project now provides for greatly improved public safety communications. The lines that are under agreement for regular maintenance and repair are compliant with federal standards of interoperability, and this improvement has made our police, fire, and EMS staff better able to communicate reliably and as a result safer. So that's going to go into effect in May. May 13th for the police, May 14th for the fire department. I wanted to update the board publicly on our municipal aggregation project that Olivia's been project managing for our office. The town's enrollment figures to date are the original enrollment list. That's for people who wanted to enroll, the people who are going to be approached to enroll for the aggregate energy program was 3,423. Of that number, 396 people have opted out of it for various reasons. 111 males were undeliverable. 47 people wishing to enroll were rejected at the utility for various reasons. And there were additionally 136 people outside of the enrollment list that we were able to opt in. So our current enrollment total in the aggregate municipal energy program is 3,005 out of the original list of 3,423. So that's a lot of people have taken advantage of this. 2,990 people have taken advantage of our standard offering. 12 people have opted for the green offering, and 3 people have opted for the green 5 offering. So this whole program seems to be pretty successful so far, with a lot of people taking advantage of that savings. So I'm happy we were able to deliver that. Update on our Stevens Mill project. GEG will be setting curb and forming sidewalks on Mill Street, and they've already started that this week, Monday through Wednesday. Working from Mill Street onto Ardlock, heading down towards West Main Street, then back up Ardlock from West Main to Village Street. Thursday and Friday we will be pouring sidewalks on Mill Street onto Village Street and heading down Village Street to West Main Street. Next week we'll continue down Village Street to West Main Street with sidewalk work. Road closures will be on Mill Street and Ardlock Place this week, on Village Street next week, with 1-lane closure on West Main Street. And if you have any questions, as always, we can put you directly in touch with the project manager from Ty and Bond, who can put you in touch directly with the GEG people. And they've been pretty good about noticing people directly, knocking on doors, letting them know that it's going to be an issue, and trying to resolve problems that come up. And I will say that if somebody reaches out to our office, we put them back in touch with Ty and Bond, and they try to reach back out to the homeowner with their individual concerns. And one thing I've been impressed with through the project management of Ty and Bond is that if the person isn't home, if they can't get in touch with them, even if they leave a message and the person doesn't call them back, they're like a dog on a bone. They'll stay on it until they get a hold of the person who had the issue and get it resolved. So that's been working pretty well. At the town's request, Senator Fatman, Representative Marcy, and Representative McKenna from Webster sent a letter to Congressman Neal expressing and sharing his disappointment in the cut of federal funding for the bridge at Brandon Road and Hill Street. And as the board recalls, everything seemed to be looking good and on track for the town to receive $850,000 in federal funds in March and April of this year. And this funding was needed to install a temporary bridge and reopen the corridor between Dudley and Webster. As we know that's on hold. Senator Fatman and Rep. Marcy have invited Congressman Neal to visit Dudley to tour the bridge, as well as the historic renovation project at Stevens Linen Mill in Dudley. And the strategy here is, of course, to let the congressman see firsthand, what the potential is in that area, what the town is working towards, and to try to get some, additional buy-in as to what's required in that area. And we're hoping if we get that, if we can get that meeting scheduled, they've sent a letter, I don't think we've gotten a response yet, but we'll let everybody know, what the schedule for that visit might be. And then finally, the annual town meeting will be held at 7 p.m. on March 19th at Shepherd Hill in the auditorium. The warrant, which is required to be posted no less than 7 days in advance of the meeting, will be posted this week. I mentioned I'm going to do it tomorrow, now that we have no further business with it. It'll be available to view on the town's website or on the bulletin board across from the town clerk's office, the library, and it'll be generally posted in different areas of the town hall. And I'm sure there'll be eventually a link to social media to the warrant, so that'll be out this week. And that's all I have for tonight.
I don't want to speak for members of the board, but I know one member of our board had reached out with an issue with the sidewalk and some of the plantings that were taken down, and I'll let him speak for himself, I guess, but the project engineer manager was very responsive to the resident.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the project manager actually had reached out to the citizen before I got back to the citizen, so it seems like they're being proactive with that.
Yeah, very, very proactive. And again, I ran into one of the ladies that were here that night discussing the condition of the road and was upset with, justifiably upset because of the condition. But I said, how do you like it now? And they had the base coat down. And now the granite's gone up even, most of the area. It looks so much better. I'm sure everyone's going to be very happy when it's all said and done.
Yeah, we've been definitely trying to stay ahead of the project. This afternoon, MJ was on his way out to address a concern that Ty and Bond had, so it happens like as soon as it's identified, as soon as we can free up, we're on it.
Excellent. Any questions for the town administrator? Further report?
I have one,
Yeah.
through the chair. It's a clarification question. We were talking about the aggregation enrollment. You were referring to people that were enrolled. Is it people or is it households?
It's households.
Households, okay.
Accounts.
I just wanted to double check.
Accounts, yeah,
That's
in
what
general,
I
yeah.
figured, but I just wanted to make sure. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Motion to accept the town administrator's report.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Johnson and Mr. Landry. Any further questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Departmental communications. TA's all set, ATA?
Yes, I do have something tonight, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to kind of add on to what Mr. Ruda was saying about the municipal aggregation. I've had a few residents reach out with questions asking why they haven't seen any sort of price change on their most recent bills. So I reached out to Colonial Power Group and received the following response. The town's municipal aggregation program started with the April 2025 meter reads, so anyone who is participating will start accruing at the town's rate on their April meter read. On their April bill, they should see a message saying that their supplier is being switched. On their May bill, they'll see the town's rate in First Point Power, Dudley Aggregation under Supply Services. This is because we use our electricity first and then we're billed for it. So if any residents have any questions, they can feel free to reach out to my office and I can connect them with Colonial Power Group.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions for ATA? Rich, treasure collector.
Good evening. I'll keep it brief. Real estate bills were due on the 1st. You know, in another couple of days, you're going to get a pink bill if you haven't paid. Excise number 1 has already been demanded, so it's just a matter of time before it goes to the deputy collector. And there's going to be a non-renew on your license, so we want to get those done. We'll go through, have our final water sewer bill that's going to go out in the next week or two. So collection-wise, we'll know pretty much what we have for right now. Health insurance, we are going to have our new rates available for 7/1. 6/1's going to be the first deduct, all contingent on enrollment in open enrollment. Everything needs to be in the office by May 7th so that they can effectuate a July 1st bill. And again, that's one of those where the timing is everything. We'll have our FY26 bill at the end of June 25. Nothing else other than I would like to make mention, we have a member of the FAA here, so it's good to have engagement. We'd had so many meetings where there were more people here, starting to get a few different faces here. So Mr. Bousier's here, and he and I originally had a conversation about him being on the FAA. So again, always good to have people who want to be involved with the process. If the board doesn't have any questions, I'll wish everybody a good evening.
Any questions for Rich?
Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Sarah Monjo, Town Accountant.
Good evening. Good news, we've posted March cash, and with any hope in the next couple of weeks, we'll have April posted, so we are very, very close to catching up and working towards the goal of having timely cash reconciliations so that we can do better projections. Now that the budget is ready for the town meeting, our focus in my office has changed to the year-end closing process. So as we move forward, there's a couple of projects I'm working on internally with the Vadar system, trying to clean things up a little bit. The accounts payable vendor database came over with almost 10,000 vendors, and we only have about 1,200 active vendors. So we're going to be working to get things cleaner and make sure that all the vendor information is accurate. And finally, in response to DLS's audit, we were asked to produce policies and procedures. And I'm going to be attending a workshop put on by DLS over the 14th and the 21st. It's 2 half-day sessions. They have suggested that a member of the select board attend also. There will be an information session about this training tomorrow, so I can share the link if any of you want to volunteer to step up. The training itself is in Westford, and I'm not sure if it's AM or PM. They still haven't confirmed that. I'm hoping to find out tomorrow. But all is good, so thank you.
Any questions for the accountant? Thank you. Mr. Gasky, building grounds, cemetery, parking lot, roads, more sidewalks.
Moth inspector.
And what? Oh,
Moth inspector.
yeah, moth inspector, tree warden.
Yeah.
So you give me that
Airport Road construction was supposed to start today. It got postponed because of the rain. So it could be starting any day. So there could be detours out. Next couple of weeks, we're going to be starting to do the monuments for Memorial Day, putting the flags up. So we'll be pretty busy with our short crew. So.
Any questions, Mr. Gasky? Thank you. Actually, next up would be board member comments. Mr. Shades.
So we received the AG opinion for the citizen petitions last week, and while the opinion was like very much consistent with what Labor Council had kind of told us in advance of the petition, I think it might be helpful to have council's opinions in writing. So without an objection, I'd like to direct the TA to request that the town council provide written guidance in terms of how to provide citizen petitions that have been disallowed or deemed inconsistent with town law, and provide that guidance to the town clerk so that she can codify those changes into the town bylaw.
So without objection? And again, when we do get council's opinion on things, it's usually privileged to necessary people, but once we get it and it's adopted, obviously everything will be publicized, so there'll be no, how'd they come up with that idea? We will definitely get the information out when it's appropriate, so a little bit of patience, people. Took the AG's office an extra 90 days we gave them or something?
90 days,
Yeah,
yeah.
so Rome wasn't built in a day. We will get all the information out there.
Mr. Chairman, and I just say that Laurie was in the office last week requesting the same sort of help, because the AG's letter says, you know, it's very specific, but there's no document for her to have codified at this point, because it's been, you know, some things have been disallowed, some things have been deemed unenforceable or inconsistent with state law. So I think this the right course of action is to follow what the AG recommends, and that's to ask town council to go through it all and give us a roadmap. Because without that kind of advice, it's really just, it's a memo that we don't know what to do with at this point.
Be nice to follow town council's advice. Mr. Sigenovich.
Nothing today, Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Landry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just want to, on a positive note, after listening to a lot of the important projects or programs that are through the TAATA's office, Accountant Auditor's Office, the Select Board, that a lot of people are working on to make happen, and things are moving forward. And the town is really taking advantage of some pretty good projects, and they were all presented with the best interests of the town to be at the forefront. And with a lot of hard work and time, you can start seeing it come together. And I just want to thank everybody involved for hard work and great job. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson.
Great weather and great turnout at Dudley Little League's parade on Saturday for all the able to attend. Good turnout by the veterans and Mr. Landry, and it really looks like a larger group of kids than I've seen in the past, including the 12-year-olds. So, really nice event. So thanks to President Colella and his board. They did put on a great show. Looks like the kids are pretty happy.
Excellent.
And thanks to Chief to have their guys available, guys and gals.
It's a short parade, but it's a good one. Yeah, not much to add. Just happy Mother's Day this weekend to those of you that are mothers. We all have mothers, or have, you know, maybe they're past, but have a nice day for everybody and just enjoy it. At this point, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Landry, Mr. Johnson, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Good night, everyone.